My name is Justin Hester, and I'm the Asterisk Technical Trainer at Digium. I'm DCAP, oh wait, where's my badge? I'm DCAP certified, the yellow or the orange flag. It's not yellow, it's Digium orange. I'm 2252. This is my email address if you'd like to spam me. If you want to tweet with, at, or next to me, I'm at Justin V. Hester. I'm also on LinkedIn if you want to connect with me. And I'd always love to meet new people from the Asterisk community. And let's talk about some Asterisk-y, Digium-like things. Today's session is Asterisk from scratch, as I already mentioned. This is geared towards people who have maybe used Asterisk in a capacity as an administrator, but really with a web GUI, or you've sort of messed around a bit with the CLI, with a command line interface in Asterisk and at Linux, but you're not really into that sort of thing. You're much more of a graphical user interface kind of person, right? And no judgments. If that's where you're at, then this is certainly the place to be. If you have a ton of experience with the Asterisk CLI and the Linux command line, you're certainly welcome to hang out, although you may find some of this a bit rudimentary, a bit basic. So I will take no offense at all if you decide, hey, I might want to go check out the Respoke 101 demo or something else going on right now. There's also the Free PBX World Kickoff in the Pacifica Ballroom. And Respoke 101, who has questions about what Respoke is? Just show of hands. Okay. So you can get a lot of those questions answered over in the Java C room if you'd like. Of course, the sessions are recorded, so if you'd rather be here now and then watch that later or vice versa, that's perfectly fine too. Okay? So right now we're going to do Intro to Asterisk and then Asterisk Architecture until 10:30, and then there will be a coffee break. All right? And if we get to the break before 10:30, I am perfectly fine with a lot of you getting a head start on all the other sessions to the coffee so that you can get all the really good coffee up front. May or may not get there. We'll see what happens. So, welcome to Astricon. Thanks for coming to Asterisk from scratch. This is Intro to Asterisk. So, a couple of goals here I'm going to set up for us. We're going to talk about what is Asterisk, what can it do, who is Digium, and how to say Asterisk. And that's a little bit of fun we'll get to here in a bit. And I suspect you already have a fairly decent answer for all four of these, but just to get us all on the same page, all right, we're going to talk a little bit about these questions. This is the release history of Asterisk. As of right now, Asterisk 13.6 shipped last week, I believe, for those of you keeping up with the latest and greatest source code. So we're squarely in the middle of Asterisk 13. Who here can tell me the difference between 12 and 13? Yeah, it's about the term of support. Yeah, yeah, how long it's supported, right? So there's a standard release and a long-term support release, right? Okay, very good. So just checking. If you didn't know that, then yeah, this is the place. This is the place for you. As you can see, Asterisk has been around for quite a bit. In 1999, Mark Spencer released 0.1, but 1.0 came out in 2004. Bit of a gap there, but there's a lot of work going into the source code to get it stable enough to say this is definitely a 1.0 release. And thereon, just about every year, there's been a new point release. A little bit of a difference between 1.8 and 10, and this is just some of that history that unless you were around, you just wouldn't know. But 1.8, and then we jump several versions all the way up to 10, right? There is no Asterisk 9, for example, right? There's 1.8 and then 10. Well, we decided that, hey, we've been doing this 1 point something for quite a long time. Why don't we just go ahead and say the version number is 10 from going forward? And so that's why you suddenly see 1.8 to 10. 10 was a standard release, and a standard release, by the way, introduces new features. A little bit more about that as we go along, but those standard release, I'm so sorry, okay. The standard release features introduced in a standard release are let out into the wild, and the brave among you will put that into production or maybe test it very rigorously, file bug reports, and then we use those bug reports to make it very solid and robust, and then that turns into a long-term release. Okay? That's essentially how it works. Again, more about that as we go along. Who's using Asterisk 1.8? Who's using something before 1.8? For shame. So, and this happens actually quite a bit, right? You're in a situation where you just have to use this version of Asterisk because there's some dependency or it depends on something else, and you just can't move, right? Just can't find the time. And that is risky, you know, especially if something comes along like a security issue that for an out of support version of Asterisk. You know, if somebody somewhere discovers that 1.4 has some enormous giant security hole in it, you really just need to update. That's what has to happen. Otherwise, you're very vulnerable. So just checking up there. Who's using the latest and greatest? Who's using 13? All right. Who's using 13.6? Not yet. Okay. All right. That would have been impressive if it was. So, certified Asterisk? Oh, okay. 2 whole hands. So, why do you use certified Asterisk?
I like the word certified.
You like the word certified. Good answer. I like that. I like that. I saw one other hand using certified. Do you care to? Same reason. All right. Why do you think we call it certified Asterisk? You were wondering? Okay. Kind of. So 13 is long-term support, right? And there's a graph we'll get to that has a duration, and so I'll try to save that content for that slide. But certified is basically a very well-tested version of Asterisk that is also supported by Digium, right? So you can purchase a support contract and call our tech support and say, hey, I really could use your help here because I'm on fire. I'm literally on fire right now, and I could use some help. That's not to say that you can't get support without certified, but again, we'll get to that sort of thing. So, what is Asterisk? This is a question that has puzzled man since 1999 at least. Who here believes they have a good succinct answer to what Asterisk might be, other than what's on the slide? Y'all just want to go with the slide? Okay, we'll go with the slide. It's an open source communications platform. So open source, we're sort of aware of what that is. I keep having to reach back because I don't have my little clicker. It's open source. This is what open source looks like. Ooh, ah. Open source just means you can access the source code for the software, right? And the source code is what the developers write. That's the instructions that the developers write. You compile that into a program. You run the program on the computer, okay? I think we're all fairly comfortable with what open source really means. Some other software, proprietary software, you don't have access to that source code. So if there's something wrong with it, you're really just beholden to whoever's developed this tool for help, right? With Asterisk, you can come to Digium, but you can also just go find a very smart C developer and say, hey, something's going on here, and it's 2 in the morning, no one at Digium is answering right now, so maybe you can help, right? This is the idea behind open source. And open source certainly gets around. There's a ton of open source technology on the internet, right? We've all heard of Apache. Who's using Chromium? Who knows what Chromium is? All right. Who's using Chrome? Okay, a few more hands. So Chromium is the open source version of Chrome, right? So Firefox, Linux, a lot of tools out there that are open source. So that's what Asterisk is, open source. It's communications. Now, we'll be talking mostly about telephony here today, but it's very important to understand that Asterisk is a lot more than just a thing that you can use to build a PBX, right? A PBX or a telephony system, right? Just make the phones ring, collect voicemail, route callers to the appropriate team. Right? These are all telephony sort of things. And Asterisk will do that and do it very well. But that's not the only thing Asterisk can do. Asterisk can integrate with a lot of other systems. So we list here traditional and VoIP, traditional meaning analog or digital, right? ISDN, PRI. Oh, here's a fun poll question I'd like to ask. Who's currently using PRI, T1 or E1, either one, or J1. Okay, all right. So it's still around, but that group gets smaller every year, right? That's because VoIP, voice over IP, has begun to take hold, and I shouldn't say begun to take hold, it's begun to really sort of like brush off the last little remnants of the PSTN, right? PSTN is still around, and it's probably going to be around for quite a while. I mean, fax, right? It won't go away. You just can't get rid of it. So for that reason, I think that, yeah, who has painful fax stories? Yeah, a lot of hands now, right? Why are we still doing this? Why? So anyhow, calendaring systems, email, instant messaging, web apps, video calls. These are all other systems that Asterisk can communicate with in real time. So if you're into WebRTC, any knowing glances? Yeah, a little bit. Okay. Are you using WebRTC to connect with Asterisk in any way? Okay. Well, then I shall stop picking on you. So WebRTC is a technology that basically, I think, and a lot of people agree with the sentiment, that is going to turn your browser into the phone, basically. It's not just the phone, but the video chat, live phone call thing, right? So anybody using Google, you're aware of Hangouts, that sort of thing? Okay, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So calendaring and email, is anyone using Asterisk to integrate with their calendaring system? No? Did you know it could do that? This is something that will allow Asterisk to essentially make intelligent decisions about when a certain event is supposed to happen, and then call people. You can even set it up to automatically dial someone into a conference if you want to just be really heavy-handed. Just ring their endpoint and drag them into the conference call, kicking and screaming at 8 o'clock on Tuesday or whatever it might be. So communications, a lot more than just telephony. Platform. This is the one that I really want to drive home, because there are a lot of really great tools out there, a lot of really great platforms, FreePBX, Elastics, this sort of thing. You have a PBX, right? You install it, you run it, you have a PBX, okay? Have a web GUI interface, great. That platform that tool is built with Asterisk. See, if you just install Asterisk, what do you have? Yeah, you've got an unconfigured system, right? You've just got something waiting to be configured. It's not going to do anything. You can't install Asterisk and then go, okay, what's my phone number? It's not going to work, right? You have to go into Asterisk and configure it one way or the other, either with command line, text files, or with a web GUI of some sort. So Asterisk is very much a platform, and in this picture, whatever you build is the rocket, right? Asterisk is the platform that the rocket sits on. So that's the whole point of this, and that's really the answer I think you should be giving when someone asks you, what is Asterisk? It's a platform, it's a toolkit, it's a framework. A lot of people say Asterisk is a PBX. Asterisk can be used to build a PBX, and very often is, but that takes a lot longer to say, so we all just kind of go, hey, it's PBX. All right? So you're forgiven if you say that, but if you really want to know the answer, the real answer, that's the deal. So here we have a quick mandatory welcome to this new technology example, the venerable Hello World example. In Apache, the web server, you can build a very quick little web page that shows you Hello World. So this is the HTML syntax. Build a very, very, very rudimentary little web page. Missing a doc type there, but we'll ignore that for a moment. In Asterisk, you build dial plan. And over on the right-hand side, that's what dial plan looks like. So who has never seen dial plan before? Okay. So just a few of you, which is perfectly fine. We'll be getting into more dial plan in the later sessions this evening. But for right now, just understanding the basic concept, that's just something you write into a text file and save it on the Asterisk server, and now you have extension 100. And extension 100 will do something if some endpoint dials it. That's basically all this means. Without that, the endpoint can dial whatever they want. It's not going to happen. They can dial 100, they can dial whatever number. If that number's not defined, if that extension is not defined inside of Asterisk, you're not going to get anything. You're just going to get fast busy. So, a few characteristics about Asterisk. It's very mature code base. It's just over 16 years old. A little joke there about those mature teenagers. It is enterprise class reliability and performance. We see Asterisk deployed in very, very intense environments. Who is currently using Asterisk to process several thousand calls a day? Yeah. 100,000 calls? Yeah. 2 billion calls? Okay, bit of a jump there. And no, I don't know of any instance where someone's processing 2 billion calls a day with one Asterisk box running on a Raspberry Pi with 1 gig of RAM. I don't know of that happening. Okay, I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm just saying they haven't reached out to me. So the whole point is Asterisk is very reliable. It has matured over the years with the help of thousands of developers, and again, that sort of goes back to why open source is so wonderful and great and awesome, right? Anybody can help. Anybody can offer their talent to make this as good as it can be. Global community, over 1 million production servers. I think that number is a bit low, but I can't really know that. We don't have a, we don't have like a little thing that's in Asterisk sort of going, hey, I've been installed again. What we can see is how often the source code is downloaded, how often the Git repository is being cloned, and how often the packages are being downloaded from Yum repos that we have access to. But that doesn't mean there are not other people distributing Asterisk as well inside of their products, or just popping up a mirror that we don't know about, right? So this is a very, very risky guess. Over 1 million production servers. How do you count that number, right? This sort of thing. Do you count a whole cluster as one or each node? The point here, though, is it is a global community. We certainly do not have just a lot of people from Huntsville, Alabama, right, in this room. I think we have people representing most of the globe at this point. Dual license. So who can tell me about the GPL v2 situation? Please. V2 versus V3. Yes. Okay. So I kind of leapfrogged you there. Sorry. So the question was, what is the GPL thing? That's the GNU public license, the GNU general public license, and GNU's not Unix. If you don't know what that is, just Google that later. Now, the general public license is the software license that Asterisk and Linux and a lot of other open source projects use to license their software. So even though it is free, as in speech, and free as in beverage, you're welcome to edit the code and then resubmit that to the main trunk line, main trunk, and then that can be merged into the main line, and then everybody can use that cool new thing you built in, right? That's possible because of the GPL. So, and we specified GPL v2 because there was a little bit of situation, I'll say, between GPL v2 and GPL v3. If you don't know about that right now, you shouldn't really worry a whole lot about it. Just understand that Asterisk is using GPL v2. v3 is a newer version of the GPL license. Just to wrap this up quickly, a newer version of the license that changes the way certain software can be packaged or included with other software when you distribute it. So because of that change, to make life easy and simple, we stuck with a GPL v2, even though v3 came out some years ago. So there's the open source license. When you just download it, you get the open source license. There's also commercial OEM. Who's using a commercial license from Digium? All right. So, and the reason you probably didn't get, I got no hands there, is because if you enter into an agreement with Digium, probably not going to tell anybody. This is sort of a white box situation where we test and build and test a very specific version of Asterisk just for inclusion in your product, and Asterisk itself is never really presented to the end user. So, but that is a commercial license, and that is something that Digium would support as part of that contract, all right? And supported. there's community support. Of course, you can go on the forums. You can go on IRC. Who's on Freenode? All right, 1, 2, 1, 2, okay. So if you're not on Freenode and you want to have just a live stream of questions and sometimes answers, check out Freenode and hop in the #asterisk channel there. If you're just joining Asterisk, though, may want to check out the forums to kind of get up to speed with the sort of the culture surrounding it. There's community support, and then commercial open source support is available, as I mentioned earlier, from Digium. That is part of what Digium does, and I'll get into what that's all about here in history of Digium a few slides forward. Here are a few use cases. So here we have the PSTN, the Public Switch Telephone Network. Is that a new term for anyone? Oh, good. All right. So we're all happy there. That's the telephone network, right? Ma Bell. And then we have the internet. Both of them look like a cloud for no reason at all. Now, Asterisk, here on the left-hand side, is connected to some VoIP phones. We'll just go ahead and safely assume it's SIP. It doesn't have to be SIP. We'll just safely assume it is. And a few analog phones as well. Right? You can connect Asterisk to analog phones using a Digium interface card. Just a PCI card, slide it in there. You can power your analog phones, or take a POTS line from your provider. So Asterisk is able to handle both of these technologies and many more, and it's connecting via the internet to, say, a remote worker. I'm going to use my cursor to say a remote worker, right? They have their SIP phone at home, and also via the internet to another Asterisk instance elsewhere. Okay, so this is sort of a hybrid, right? We're transitioning from the traditional, some may say big iron PBX. That's just analog phones, just digital lines maybe, and that's all it does, and it can't talk IP at all. Asterisk is built really to use SIP and a VoIP, so IP is really its main bread. So you can get cheaper calls through this route, sort of what I'm getting at there. Which is why toll bypass is such a popular use case for Asterisk. So, is anyone using Asterisk to get around some expensive phone bills right now? Really? Okay, just the 3 of you? 4? Okay. Huh. So, that's a bit interesting to me. May have some questions during the next break. So, toll bypass, just the concept itself, instead of routing a call through the telephone provider, right, especially for international calls, how about we just set up an Asterisk system in my Toronto office, and then I set up another Asterisk system in my Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas office, and then we can just connect those via the internet directly, right? So if I want to make a call from office A to office B, I can just route that over the internet. It costs as much as an email, ideally, right? So your data rates may differ, but that will be a little bit cheaper. Even better, hey, what if someone in Office A needs to call a customer that is located in Office B's geographical area, right? We can just route the call to that PBX and then out of the building of that PBX to that local number. That way it's no longer an international number, it's a local call from that other office. Is that unclear to anybody? Okay, all right. Just want to make sure. I've seen a little bit of this. So I just want to make sure that, okay. All right. The feature server. This is probably my favorite use case because it's a way to sort of surprise those that are not quite on top of all the latest and greatest open source technology, right? They don't even have like a favorite command line text editor. They don't even know what IRC is, which is fine. That's totally fine. It's not a problem. But this is a way to sort of impress those sort of people. Here we have the traditional setup. We have the big expensive box that only does what you paid for up front, and you probably paid a good bit of money. And by what it does up front, I mean you get X number of extensions, and you can only have this many conference rooms, and only this many people in a conference room, and only these many people are allowed to have a voicemail, right? This is the sort of old style. Asterisk came along and changed all that. Now you can just write a text, write a configuration file and build all that on your own. So here we have the traditional box with a bunch of analog lines, and maybe your conference calls can only have 10 people in it for some crazy reason, right? And you have this new project spinning up, and you need a lot more than 10 people on a conference call for whatever reason that might be. So hey, let's just build a little conference room into an Asterisk server, connect it to the PBX on the back end, and anyone that dials into that conference room, instead of hosting the conference room on the original PBX, let's send all those calls over to Asterisk. And now Asterisk will host that conference call. And guess how many members you can have in a conference call in Asterisk? What's the limit? Yeah, a perfect answer. You said physical resources, right? So by physical resources, I'm assuming you mean CPU, RAM, this sort of thing, how much throughput you have on the NIC, right? So yeah, that's the limitation in Asterisk, and that's one of the things that I sort of have to answer over and over and over. What's the limitation in Asterisk? It's not written into Asterisk. There's no part of the software that says you're only allowed to have this many, things, right? Generally speaking, of course, there's some reasonable limitations we put in place. Context can only have 79 characters. If you know what a context is, then that will make sense, and if not, you'll know later. So again, I really love this use case because you can set that up and say, okay, we're ready. We can have this conference call now with our 52-member project team, if that's what you're after, and you could potentially do it. So we're ready to have that call, and then somebody somewhere goes, wait a minute. I wrote the check for this PBX. I know that's not the case. I know that we can't do that. So did somebody else try to check? Did somebody else, spend a lot of money on this thing so we can get even more people into our conference room? No. Somebody, somewhere, maybe with a beard, maybe not, wrote a config file instead, okay? So instead of writing a check, you just write a config file, and that's what you get out of Asterisk. So, and then you can sort of say, hey, well, you can do a lot of other stuff too. Maybe we can start branching out. Maybe we don't have to pay that licensing fee yet again that we don't really need because we can build all this stuff with Asterisk. So that's one of my favorite use cases. This is another increasingly popular situation. So who recognizes this? All right. So a few of you. So I'd like to ask which part is familiar, if you would like to offer the room some information. Which part is familiar and what is it? A clustered phone system, right? So, sorry? Yes. So we've got our Camelio, and now there's a little bit of a debate here. I'm going to take a poll. Who says, when you're referring to Camelio, you call it Camelio? Huh? Yeah, and then who says Camelio? Okay, so I'm a bit lazy with my pronunciation there, which is a bold statement considering the end of this slide deck. You'll see in a moment. So Camelio? Okay, I will take that on good authority then. All right, so Camelio is essentially a SIP registration server. That's really all it cares about. Okay, Asterisk does a lot of stuff. Camelio is primarily concerned with consuming SIP registration. Okay, and if you don't know what SIP registration is, again, stick around. We'll be getting there as well. Now here you can probably work out just by looking at it. We have Camelio 1 and 2. So that's probably a load balancing sort of situation, right? And we have a database down here at the bottom. The database is is the central storage for all of the SIP registration info, right? And so Camelio 1, Camelio 2 can reference that information in the database. They have the same point of reference for that, so they don't accidentally overwrite, or they don't accidentally get the wrong idea about the same endpoint, right? They start arguing. Never good. So we store that centrally in a database. And then on the other side, we have 3 Asterisk servers. Now, these could be virtual, these could be physical, probably virtual. I mean, is anyone not virtualizing Asterisk right now? Okay. You just like the sound of that fan, right? It's okay, I do too. Right? So here we have a cluster. We have Asterisk IVR, Asterisk queues, and then Asterisk VM, which you might be tempted to think, oh, a virtual machine right there, right? No, that's voicemail. So Asterisk voicemail. And exactly what's happened here is we've built one Asterisk server, and all it does is IVR, right? Interactive voice response. So when someone dials into your business and they need to press 1 for sales or 2 for support or 3 for the janitor or whatever it might be, they're using that system, right? Their endpoint is connected to that system, and that system is playing back the sound files and consuming their DTMF and routing them to the proper place. We have Asterisk queues. If someone calls in and they press 2 for sales, then they're sent over to the queues system, and now they're waiting in a queue for some very helpful, polite, friendly person to answer and help them out, right? Because they're always so helpful and polite and friendly because they have bosses that use Asterisk, so they work in a really great place, has really awesome culture, right? And then Asterisk voicemail. They need to leave a voicemail. We have a system that just does voicemail in this example, all right? So this is a way of sort of breaking up the major tasks that Asterisk would need to handle and sort of shoveling that workload to that specific system, okay? Anyone unclear on that? Asterisk can do that, and in fact there's a session at AsteriskCon this year talking about front-ending Asterisk with Asterisk, I think is the name of the talk. And essentially that the content there, I believe, I haven't talked to the speaker, but the content there would answer exactly what you're asking. So the question was, doesn't Asterisk do that? Why would I need Kamailio, right? So Kamailio has become very, very popular for use as a SIP registration server because it only cares about SIP registration. So let me ask this question really quick. Who does not understand SIP registration? Okay, so any one of you that kept your hand down there, would you like to explain what SIP registration is? Why does it matter? Logging in? Mm-hmm. Right. So logging in is this extension. Essentially, okay, it's basically a good idea. If I have an endpoint that needs to talk to Asterisk, right, the endpoint needs to know some information about Asterisk, like an IP address probably. And then Asterisk, if Asterisk wants to send a call to the phone, Asterisk needs to know the phone's IP address. So we achieve this in one of two ways. We can log into the Asterisk server and physically type the IP address, and boy, I hope it's a static IP because DHCP will screw you, all right? Or you can set the phone up to register to Asterisk. So when the phone registers to Asterisk, now Asterisk has the credentials, has the IP address for the phone. So now Asterisk can reach the phone as well. Kamailio is focused on just that one part of the entire ecosystem. Kamailio does not really burden itself too much with IVR and voicemail and all this. It really cares about making sure that if Asterisk on the back end needs to reach an endpoint, Kamailio can route that call properly. Right? And so that's all that it does. So it's just another way of separating out the different parts of the workload. Okay. All right. So, and you'll hear some repetition once we get into SIP and endpoints and this sort of thing. For right now, let's talk about who is Digium. Well, we are the Asterisk company. It was founded as LSS, Linux Support Systems, by Mark Spencer, way back when, back in 1999. So, and parts of this you may have heard before if you've heard like the lore of Asterisk and Digium. Originally, it was a Linux support company, right? You have a bunch of Windows administrators, and they have this one Linux box that everyone's terrified, and oh no, it rebooted, and we don't know why. Okay, you can call LSS, and they have Linux people that will help you out, right? That was the business model. In order to get that sort of a business going, though, you really need a PBX. You need queues, mainly. You need an IVR. You need voicemail. You need a PBX. And at that time, a PBX was prohibitively expensive. It would have soaked the majority of Mark Spencer's seed money to start a business. So he said, well, I'm a big open source Linux person. How hard could it be? I'll just write it myself. And that was how Asterisk began. Well, as time went on, it turns out that Asterisk was much, much, much more popular than just offering Linux support services. People started calling and saying, hey, I'm actually using your Asterisk server. Could you help me with that instead? And as this became more and more popular, well, here we are at AsteriskCon 2015, right? became much more popular. LSS was dissolved and reformed as Digium, and focusing mainly on Asterisk and products surrounding Asterisk that will help support the project. We have roughly 200 employees. Our main headquarters are in Huntsville, Alabama, on Research Park, and very, very close to the NASA Space and Rocket Center. We also have other offices in Atlanta, Georgia, and San Diego, California. Now, Digium has two main product groups. There's business products and developer products. Business products include SwitchVox. Any SwitchVox users? Thought I heard one, okay. Digium SIP trunking. We also have SwitchVox Rescue as an extension of Digium Cloud services. So you can have SwitchVox Cloud, which is essentially, hey, we will host your SwitchVox instance in the cloud. Okay? You essentially have the same access to the system through the web GUI as you would if it was actually physically sitting in your office or in your data center. But we'll ship you the phones. We'll worry about the actual platform itself. So SwitchVox Rescue is a way for you to very quickly spin up a backup system in case something were to go wrong with your on-site. And that happens in the cloud too. SwitchVox Switchboard. Switchboard is the web GUI that's provided with SwitchVox. There's also mobile apps that are available for iOS and Android that interact with SwitchVox, and also the good old SwitchVox hardware PBX. So I'll move on from this. This is business products. We have developer products. So developer products are things that Digium sells in order to further the cause, right? Further, feed the developers, right? This sort of thing. And we sell a lot of different products surrounding Asterisk. So of course we have our Digium phones, also work with SwitchVox just fine. Our Digium phones, our interface cards for analog or digital telephony interface, as well as our gateway products. So has anyone used a gateway product with Asterisk? Yeah. So it's just a little box that basically sits on your network and it will translate between SIP and PRI. Okay, so if you need to get a PRI trunk into a SIP server or vice versa, the gateway makes it pretty easy to do that. It has a web GUI as well. And the whole point of that was, hey, we're selling a ton of these digital cards, just a ton of these digital cards, and the only thing that it's being used for is to build like a little gateway. They're not doing voicemail, they're not doing IVR, they're not doing anything. They're just plugging a legacy PBX with PRI into a SIP trunk. So let's build a turnkey product around that. And that's where the gateway came from. I already mentioned support. There are support subscriptions, and you have support during business hours. We all kind of understand what support is. Now I want to talk a little bit more about training courses. So as I mentioned, I'm the Asterisk technical trainer, and Digium sells training as part of support for the project. So if you have recently inherited an Asterisk PBX, this is right now probably the most popular case I've seen in my classes. People will come in and say, yeah, so I was working, I'm on the network team, and we had a person that was our Asterisk person, and they left. And then someone who was in charge said, hey, you know about computers, do the telephone thing now. And then I've never done that before. Well, go ahead, right? This is the sort of situation that you've inherited a PBX, but you've never really worked with Asterisk. So to meet that need, we have things like Asterisk from scratch, and we also have Asterisk Essentials, the online training, Asterisk Fast Start for the beginner, right? So if Asterisk from scratch is your first, let's sit in a room and talk about just Asterisk for a bit, but you've never really had the chance to dig in because those emails, they just keep coming. I keep having to answer all these emails. I can never read the documentation, right? Asterisk Fast Start may be a really good fit for you as well. If you've been using Asterisk at the command line for a while, right, between 6 and 18 months, then Asterisk Advanced is probably the better fit for you. So in Asterisk Advanced, we're helping administrators get a handle on some of the more typical but more thorough treatment of those typical use cases for Asterisk.
Is the advanced training coming to anything besides Vegas or Alabama?
In North America?
Yeah.
At the moment, no. So, and that's actually the training that I deliver. Of course, Huntsville, Alabama is our, I go there every day anyhow, right? So let's have the training here. And then we have another training location set up with one of our partners in, technically it's Henderson, Nevada. So if you're trying to sell it, you'd be like, oh no, it's Henderson, Nevada. Yeah. What airport are you flying into? Vegas Airport. But it really is, I fly into Vegas Airport, I drive 10 minutes one direction, I'm in Henderson. So it's a lovely little place. So yeah, right now those are the only scheduled, I already own the room and have everything set up. If you want to get with me and talk during the break, we do custom training on occasion, depending upon the size of the group. So it has to be a certain head count to be able to, cover the cost. I like to eat when I travel, this sort of thing. So not eat big. I'm not, going to go to a 5-star restaurant on your dime. So yeah, thanks very much for the question. There's also certifications. Who has taken their DCAA? All right. So what is the DCAA? Yeah. Digium Certified Asterisk Administrator, which is, we can assume that now, right? So yeah, the DCAA is the Digium Certified Asterisk Administrator. It's actually a free online test. It's 60 questions. Keep me honest, 60 questions, yes? It's 60 questions. I'm just trying to engage with the audience a little bit. Just trying to build a bit of rapport. I like your shirt, by the way. See how I did that? So, all right. Truly, I do. So the DCAA, it's a free online exam, multiple choice, and it's going to test your knowledge at a roughly entry-level knowledge base about Asterisk, about telephony in general, and how Asterisk is used in this sort of a realm. The DCAP, significantly more challenging exam, and we're actually offering DCAP sessions here at Astricon, and I offer those at the end of every Asterisk Advanced course. The DCAP is a 3-hour exam. There's 2 sections, a practical section and a theory section. So the practical section is, here is a unconfigured Asterisk system, and here is a spec sheet from a customer, and you have 90 minutes to configure it to their specifications. Okay? And it is a bit challenging. Now, you don't have Google, but you have your brain. Okay? And you also have the command line and the help files, right? All these things are really, really handy, and that's a bit of the point, right? Google is wonderful, and it's always great to have that as a backup, but you don't always necessarily have to, and sometimes you can't, get out to some external resource. So knowing how to get some help out of Asterisk directly is a really great skill to have, and that's part of the DCAP exam. Then there's a theory section, another 90 minutes to answer 115 multiple choice questions, and I think maybe 2 true-false. I don't know, haven't looked in a little bit at that question pool. Maybe 2 true-false, depends on what role you get. So there's the DCAA and the DCAP. Any questions about those 2 things, just while I'm talking about it? Yes. I wouldn't say that it's easy, but it is easier. So the questions are scaled down a bit in difficulty. So you'll still have to sort of know what's going on. But again, it is a free online exam, and you'll get a digital certificate. If you take and pass the DCAP, though, you'll get a nice print certificate, and of course, if you come to Astricon, you'll get a cool little flag to say, hey, everybody, look what I did. All right. Now, let's see. Yes? Mm-hmm. So there's no exact prep material, as in follow these instructions and do these things and you're good. There's not really a boot camp style training. Even at Asterisk Advanced is not really a boot camp for the DCAP. We do offer the DCAP at the end of Asterisk Advanced because what better time to sit for the exam other than after a week of just focusing on Asterisk, right? But it's not really a guaranteed pass DCAP, a boot camp sort of a thing. There's the DCAP exam description online if you go to our webpage, which I'm assuming you've already checked out. And the advice that I always offer is, imagine the top 10, most boring, mundane PBX features, right? Imagine the most top 10, the most boring top 10 PBX features, right? Just anybody call this out. What's the first thing you think of when you think of a telephony system? Extensions, yeah. Yeah, IVR, okay. Yeah, voicemail, yes, exactly. So high level, a lot of times I ask that question, people will go, context includes. No, that's too low level. Think like an end user that's just coming to you as a consultant and says, hey, I want you to build me a phone system, right? What are they going to ask you for, okay? Because the DCAP is geared towards administrators that are working with a PBX, okay? So that's the advice I give. Think of those things. Make that list, and then drill yourself on building those top 10 or so items on a PBX. And virtualization is really great because you can take a snapshot and roll back. So what virtualization will not help you with is Dottie. So who knows what Dottie is? And I'll get to you. Yeah. So Dottie is the thing. Let me be a little more technical about it. Dottie's this thing, Dottie is the Linux kernel driver that controls the hardware interface. So the Digium cards for analog and digital telephony, that's what Dottie is. So you'll need to get some practice in with Dottie configuring analog and digital cards as well, right? So, and again, I don't think I'm giving away too much. That's also part of the exam description. And if not, I may be in a lot of trouble. But this sort of thing I think it's reasonable for me to think that you might expect it. So, sorry, I made you wait for so long.
The practical part, are there examples of different practicals that have been done in the past that you can go out and look at and just, okay, so here's 5 different ones that you've done.
Right.
Sit down, because my usual thing is time stuff sometimes throws me.
Yeah, having a timed exam. This sort of thing.
So I'll get stuck in one little corner and I'll just spin them.
Yeah.
And I won't finish the big picture.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying.
A list of, okay, so here's what we did 2 years ago for the exam.
Right.
Here's a list.
I see what you're saying.
At least know the format and everything.
Yeah. Okay. So the question was, are there any examples of configurations that have been used on the DCAP in the past and this sort of thing? So. As far as I know, there's nothing official out there that says, hey, this is what I did to pass the DCAP. And there's certainly nothing that we produce that says, okay, open up this text file and type these things in and you're gold, right?
I'm not even thinking that.
Okay.
Literally, I want the specification sheet like if I was going to take the test.
I see, yeah.
So that I can sit down and try it before I did it.
Right, I see what you're saying. No, because essentially that's the exam itself. So giving exactly the spec sheet out is something that we don't do for the exam. But there is the description if you have been to the DCAT webpage. That will give you sort of a high level of what you need to study. It won't give you the exact, okay, channel 25 needs to be set up this way, right? But it will give you like, hey, make sure that you're solid on this topic and this topic and this topic. So is that maybe what you were looking at? Maybe a little more specific than that?
Okay. Like basically no one else.
Yeah, I see. Okay, something to think about. Let's chat during the exam.
You brought up Dottie and virtualization really quick.
Uh-huh.
We moved on. We never got direct hardware pass-through working in a VMware environment for Dottie cards.
Yeah.
Has it ever been done?
I understand that it's been done. I understand that it has been done, but the really tricky thing there is a Dottie card has several interrupts, right? It's because it's real-time communication. So, and just to repeat the question for the room, the question was, we've never gotten PCI pass-through working with VMware when using a Dottie card, right? And I know that it has happened here and there, but the tricky thing is those cards have a very high interrupt rate. And because of that, virtualization poses a tricky challenge there. It's certainly been accomplished. So, and then you had a question? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned, so his response being really, instead of trying to get pass-through working, use a gateway, right? Use a SIP gateway. And is that the solution you ultimately went with? You mentioned that you never actually got.
Yeah, well, we went with hard boxes because we had to break our version of Asterisk and some of them did not detect TTMF at all.
Oh, okay.
And so we had to actually allow that because Asterisk will actually manipulate the millisecond durations of the amount of tones as it passes through.
Yep.
And we absolutely could not have that.
Yeah.
And so these special SBCs that we have that run that specific one,
Mm-hmm.
we had quad T1 pride cards in it coming off TD, and we were now able to get rid of those, which now I can virtualize. But for the past few years, we had to sit with these hard boxes with Asterisk specifically broken.
Yeah.
Pick up any DT, not manipulated at all because of these bloody TDM circuits we had to stick into it. And we never actually were able to successfully get it to a VMware environment with direct hardware pass-through.
Yeah.
Without just duplicating hardware over and over.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's there's a lot of options out there, and unfortunately, you'll hear it's on your side of the DMARC. You know, an awful lot. So, one last thing I'll touch on this slide here, Respoke. Right. So, who knows what Respoke is? I see a Respoke jacket back. Okay, I was about to say I got to see one hand. So, would you like to offer? Or you look a bit busy. You want to offer the room what Respoke is, what is Respoke? Yeah, it's Digium's WebRTC platform, basically. Yeah, I'm not mocking you. I'm just relaying. I swear. That's a very succinct description. Respoke, and it's one of those things that's kind of difficult to describe to someone unless you're a developer or you work with developers all day long. But essentially, Respoke is a platform that provides an API that you can use to build real-time communication into a web app. Okay, so already we've skipped some steps there, right? Before you get to using Respoke, you need to have a web app, right, or some sort of application. So step 0, have an application that does something that you would like to also add real-time communication into. All right, that's step 0. Then step 1, hey, you can use Respoke to do that because it's really much easier than having your developers write all the low-level JavaScript that manipulates WebRTC. And if what I'm saying is gibberish, Respoke may not be something that you necessarily need right now, but here's the use case. You have an application that has clients here, there, and yon, and gee, it would be really great if those could communicate point-to-point real-time. If that is a situation that you can imagine with your current product or something that you're using, Respoke may be able to provide that answer for you by way of a developer. So, and just a sanity check, would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yes. So I can do the config, the stations config, and SIP config all on the cloud. That's the idea.
So doing SIP config in the cloud, I think you're imagining like a cloud-hosted Asterisk system. Okay, so yeah, what you're describing there is basically an Asterisk server, but in the cloud. Respoke is not that at all. So Respoke defines endpoints, but not SIP endpoints and not actual phones, right? Respoke is really a platform that developers can use to write a real-time communication client. Okay, and it doesn't have to be voice. It can be video and voice, or text and video, and this sort of thing. Lots of really interesting things have been built over the past year or so with Respoke that we play with at Digium that you could build on your own. But again, that's all I have for Respoke right now. If you have more questions, again, see me during one of the breaks. I can try to point you to the documentation if you want to pull it up on your browser. It's respoke.io. You can get more information there. So now we're going to try something a little new. If you could please rise, if you're able to, and if not, no problem. Please, let's all stand up really quick. Really quick. Now everyone's awake again. Okay, I see who's asleep. If you don't stand, it's fine. It's going to hurt me. So before we talk about pronunciation of Asterisk, I need to show you a picture. Oh, love your end users. They pay the bills. Now, this is a picture of a donkey. No donkeys were harmed in the production of this image. This donkey is playing dead. Okay? So sometimes you may need to bring up the fact that, why are we suddenly talking about donkeys playing dead? Because a word that I hear an awful lot, and oh, wait, I need to make a disclaimer. Sometimes some people have a problem pronouncing certain things, right? Have an accent or a speech impediment. I'm not talking to you. Yeah, if that's your situation, no judgment, zero judgment. And also, if any of you use any of this material to go and sort of poke fun at someone that has this, an actual speech impediment, I'm going to come and find you. I'm going to shake you. I'm going to shake you really hard. Don't. Okay, that's not what I'm after. I'm after just having a little fun here. So here's the word that I hear an awful lot: asterisks. Asterisks. I'm a public speaker, right? I'm speaking in a private room now, but I speak for a living, right? So I kind of get like my eye starts going a little bit like this because it's just asterisk. It's really easy, just asterisk, right? So we're just going to try out a few things here. So as the word pops up, let's say it together. Risk. How was that? See? Master. Okay. Tourist. Everybody like Sesame Street? Yeah. All right. Aster, okay. And risk. One last practice. Asterisk. Hey, there you go. All right. See? It's not hard at all. It's not hard. And again, if this is just a bit of fun to try to help people get. Now, there are other things out there like elastics and tricks box and this sort of thing. And when you're speaking really, really fast, sure, your tongue can get tied a little bit. No problem there at all. So this is just sort of a, hey, I've been talking for a bit. Let's wake up sort of thing. So, but also when you hear someone say that other word, you can say, why are we suddenly talking about donkeys playing dead? All right. Okay. So now you can all have a seat if you'd like, or if you'd like to stretch a little bit. Oh, I have a question. Astracon. And now I know what to put on next year's slide. And if anyone would like to grab some water. Have a drinking problem. Or a pouring problem. All right. You all can just walk right back there. You don't have to come up here and be embarrassed. Okay. Now let's talk about asterisk architecture. Oh, actually, hang on. I got a note here before we do. So there's Respoke 101. Again, if you're looking for some really cool Respoke information, check that out in the Java C room. There's also free PBX partner programs starting right now in the Pacifica Ballroom. And during our break in the Pacifica Ballroom, you can go to free PBX high availability. So just making everybody aware of your options in case you don't want to hear me drone on and on. And also we have a coffee break in about 24 minutes. So I will try to, I endeavor to make sure you all have the caffeine that you want and need. All right? I'm a big fan of caffeine. That's just, so maybe you're not into that, but let's move towards the caffeine, I say. So we're going to talk about Asterisk and Linux, the modular architecture. We're going to talk about channels. We're going to talk about the interfaces, and we're going to talk about config file syntax, not necessarily in this order. And notice interfaces, APIs, and CLI. Now, I'm sorry to tell you that if you've come here expecting us to have like a really rigorous, thorough introduction to ARI, you've come to the wrong place. This is Asterisk from scratch after all. The APIs, specifically ARI, really geared towards developers. Okay? This is geared towards, I've been using Asterisk for a bit, and I've kind of had to play at the command line, but I want to get a good foundation. So, Asterisk runs on any Unix-based platform. It's kind of a bold statement, I think, to say anything runs on any X version of a thing, right? But But, however, Asterisk has been known to run on at least all of these. And so you all know about that app. You know what that Apple thing is. Solaris. Everybody know what Solaris is? Just know. Okay. We've got the BSD devil, right? Everybody wondering what in the world that is? Yeah. BSD is. Yeah. Yeah.
To have a problem with device drivers, there's no single driver.
Ah. Yeah. Hey, the free PBX, they're here. You've been their ear. You know.
PSD works with Digium cards as well.
Yeah. Okay. I spend about 95% of my time in CentOS, and then about 12% of the other 12%, that's more than 100% I know, in Debian. So I haven't had a chance to really have a good go at BSD with Asterisk. But the point being that these are the platforms that you could technically, in theory, run Asterisk on. Hey, who knows what this symbol is? This yeah, Cygwin. That's sort of Unix on Windows, right? And there was a release some years ago where Asterisk was compiled and reported to run. I haven't even tried, but that's, it's not impossible. That's the category, but it's not impossible. However, I'm going to gray out the things that are much less common. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do them. That just means they're much less common. CentOS, probably the most common. CentOS or Red Hat are the two most common, at least that I see, and that's just my, whatever filter the universe has set up for me to see systems, right? In your world, it may be Debian wall to wall, right? It might be Ubuntu all day long. I hate CentOS. I don't even know what that is. It's all Ubuntu, right? Okay, that will work, and that's certainly working for a lot of people. Now let's talk about channels. The idea of a channel is really important if you're going to understand the fundamentals of Asterisk. Now here I've listed 3 things: SIP, EEX, and DOTI. So SIP, Session Initiation Protocol, is just a protocol that is, at the moment, I think probably the most popular protocol available for voice over IP. And it's just the communication protocol that 2 endpoints can use to set up and tear down a real-time communication session. Okay? Would anybody like to add anything to that? And that's pretty much what SIP is. I mean, ultimately, SIP is just a pile of text documents that describe to developers how to implement it, right? You can't go download the SIP, right? You would download the RFC and then hand that to your developers and say, good luck, right? And whatever software they write should be, if they follow all the rules in this enormous document and all this, the cousin documents that split off of that, if they follow all those rules, their software should be able to interact with any other software that also follows the RFC. So you hear things thrown around like RFC compliant. That's what that's about. So there's SIP, then there's EEX, and IAX is what you would be tempted to say. And here's one of the things that I really love about technology culture, of which I think we're all a member of, right? Our culture is very text-based. Right? We get online, we read things, we send emails, we write, but we don't talk an awful lot, which is kind of funny because we're at a convention about real-time communication and phone calls. But we read, and then we sort of make our own assumption about how to pronounce something, camelio as opposed to camelio, right? This sort of thing, which is why I like to check up. I say, okay, who knows how to say this word? Let me just make sure. And I'll just accept whatever somebody tells me how to pronounce a certain word, right? It's not Apache, it's Apache, okay? EEX, on the other hand, I have it on really good authority. That's how you say that, EEX. Because Mark Spencer wrote that protocol, and he says, it's called EEX. And I said, okay. and that's really, now if you keep saying IAX, okay, I don't think anyone's going to get mad at you, but they're just going to go, wait, what? Oh, EEX. Oh, right. You can skip that part of the conversation. You just say EEX. So who's using EEX right now? Cool. All right. Do you love it? Do you not love it? It serves its purpose. Yeah. What is its purpose?
I'm using it to interconnect to Asterisk.
Yeah, that's exactly what EEX is about. It's inter-asterisk exchange. It's meant to connect two asterisk systems together, right? It's sort of like it was idealized as a VoIP trunk, right? Multiple concurrent calls, multiple concurrent channels between two servers. Which is why the Digium phones, by the way, do not use EECs, right? Digium phones use SIP, because SIP is made for endpoints. EECs is meant for two different asterisk servers to communicate or to send several concurrent calls. And then we have DOTI, the Digium Asterisk Hardware Device Interface. Again, those are the kernel drivers for the Digium cards. Okay, so these all three of these correspond to a type of channel within Asterisk. Here we have two Digium phones and an Asterisk server in the middle. And when you send a call from one point to the other, it's really important to know that you're really using two channels here. You have channel 1, that's set up from whoever initiates the call into Asterisk, and then channel 2 is set up between Asterisk and the other endpoint, right? This is the basics of the basic, right? This is day one, how does Asterisk work with channels? But the concept is something that you really need to take home with you. A channel is a communication pathway between some endpoint and Asterisk. Okay? That's the book definition, I'm here to tell you. It's just a communication pathway between an endpoint and Asterisk. And it carries all sorts of information, not just the actual voice payload. And at least in this type of a call, you're using two channels. If you get into a conference call, you're using many more channels, right? Any questions about what a channel is? I think we're all okay. Module files. Now, Asterisk does have a modular architecture, right? In Linux, we see the same sort of thing. We have the Linux kernel, and then we have just a pile of software built on top of that uses the Linux kernel to interact and interconnect with each other to accomplish something. Asterisk has a very similar architecture. There's a basic core, and it has several modules that provide some functionality, some specific functionality. And we'll get into those, the modules themselves, but first I just wanted to show you that the modules are named something like this, type_filename.so. So who knows what an SO file is in Linux? All right. Yeah, shared object module. All right. Sticker for you. I don't trust my aim, so come get it at the break. All right. So yeah, shared object file. Basically, this is just the actual file itself that's loaded into the Asterisk core, and this provides the functionality of that module. Right? Asterisk by itself doesn't really dial or do voicemail. It has modules to do those things. Those modules are stored by default, they're stored in user_lib asterisk modules. This is the directory on your CentOS server. You could change that, you could configure it to be something else, but this is the default installation directory. So who else wants a sticker that can tell me why that directory name might be a problem if you're using 64-bit? I think I saw this hand first. Yeah, exactly right. Let's see if I can break the projector really quick by popping over and explaining what that was about. So I'm going to change directory into user_lib. I'm just going to bump that tab key because tab complete is awesome. I have a couple of options here. I could go into user_lib or user_lib64, right? This is a 64-bit installation of CentOS, so my Asterisk modules were installed into lib64. Oh, need to change into my modules directory as well. I'm going to list all the contents in this directory, and you can see it's quite a long list. Now notice that the file names have that same syntax. There's type_name of the thing .so. And we'll talk about all those different types, the res and chan and so forth here in just a moment. As soon as PowerPoint does what it does. Hey, there we go. So, just a quick tip there, if you're installing on Asterisk, on a 64-bit OS and then you're wondering, hey, where are my modules? Well, you might have noticed that you compiled it for 64-bit support, so that's the directory you need to look in. As I mentioned, this is configurable, so there is a parameter you can set in an asterisk config file, ast-mod dir. If you change what this value is in the etc asterisk asterisk.conf file, then you can say, I'd rather keep my modules in some other directory. Right? You can control it here. Again, if that's unclear right now, trust me, we're getting towards some fun stuff here in a moment. Module show like SO. Who's used that command before? Okay, I was about to say none of you? That's certainly a few of you. Okay, well, so what will this do for me? Yeah, exactly. All the available modules, and that's a really key point. So, I'm going to jump in my Asterisk CLI here. If I do module show like SO, what I'm going to get is a giant list, and thanks to line returns and being a little bit narrow there, it sort of wraps around. But I'm going to get a giant list and a very short description of what that module is. But the important part is modules that are available, right? Sometimes a module may not be available for whatever reason. Even though you compiled it, you swear up and down you met the dependencies, but why is this module not loading or not available when I look for it in the CLI? So it's important to know that what you're going to get out of the CLI is a list of the modules that are actually available. If I wanted to do something a little more granular, I could do module show like voicemail. Right? And I get a list of a couple of modules that have the word voicemail in their name. So that's what module show like and then some keyword is going to do for you. And then while I'm here, I'm going to go into my etc asterisk directory. So this is by default the home of all the asterisk config files. If I do an ls here, again, I have a huge number of config files because at installation I said, hey, just do everything. Just give me one of everything. So now I have all of these configuration files. Your system may not look like this, and indeed I would hope that it doesn't necessarily look like this if it's in production and can touch the internet. More about why that is here in a bit. So if I want to look at the default asterisk config file, this is what it will look like at the top. And the ast-mod dir right here. Can you see that on the projector? Yeah. You can see the ast-mod dir parameter is set to user lib64 asterisk modules. So this is exactly where we've told Asterisk to look for all those module files. If you move them to some other directory, you change them here, save this file, restart Asterisk, now you have a new place to look for those module files. Okay. Oh, that looks fun. Okay, there we go. Warning, Asterisk modules are version dependent. Who has tried to upgrade Asterisk before and found a world of hurt? Yeah. So what happened? Was it the module thing? Yeah. So the module thing, when you try to upgrade Asterisk, that directory that's full of all those .so files, they're compiled at installation. And when you compile Asterisk, it compiles them and puts them in that directory. I think I've said that about 4 times now. When you go to recompile Asterisk, maybe a newer version of Asterisk, it's going to look in that same directory again. And if it sees some modules are there, it's going to go, maybe they don't want me to overwrite these. This is I'm now acting as the Asterisk install make file, right? Maybe they don't want me to overwrite these .sos. Maybe I should leave those be. So I'm going to print out a quick little warning. It says, warning, warning, warning. These modules were compiled by something else and not me, so just look out. And really what that's telling you is, hey, you might want to go back up that directory and clean it out. Don't just delete it, but move it somewhere, back it up, archive it, send a copy to your aunt, whatever you got to do, and then do the upgrade installation. That will recompile all the modules for that version of Asterisk you've just downloaded. That's one of the steps to have a good day when it's time to upgrade Asterisk. So they are version dependent, and if you try to use those old modules, you just go, I don't care about that warning sign. I'm just going to keep going. If you try to use that, you may have sadness. Interfaces. Today we are working with the .conf files. Now you know they're in the etc asterisk directory. And we're also looking at the CLI, which was that other interface I popped up there and did the module show like. Right? That's the actual Asterisk prompt. Right? That's where you can enter commands directly into Asterisk and get some information about it. Is anyone's mind blown by this? Okay, just a temperature check. I didn't think so, but I got to cover my bases. Now there are 3 APIs: the Asterisk Gateway Interface, the Asterisk Manager Interface, and the Asterisk RESTful Interface. These APIs are what developers can use to build some software that will interact with and control Asterisk programmatically. So who sees APIs as a mystery? Okay, all right. Only a few, and if you have some questions, I'll be glad to send you to our developers. I'm just kidding. I'll answer every question that I possibly can. Yeah. So AMI, the summary of AMI is control of the entire system, right? So you can write some software to sort of tell Asterisk what to do with any number of channels, or when a certain situation happens, trigger this event, so now I'm going to reply with this command to tell Asterisk to do something. And AMI can be used to control any of the channels, really. AGI is really meant to provide a control of a single channel to do something in a different language, right? So maybe you have a developer that's really strong with PHP or Python, and they're kind of like, I don't know if I want to spend a whole lot of time learning this dial plan stuff, right? So they learn just enough dial plan to get the call into Asterisk and then out of Asterisk to their little custom tool that they wrote in PHP, right? And then that thing in PHP controls that one channel for the life of that channel. And it can send commands back and forth between Asterisk and that other script or that other software and control just that call. And then at the end of the call, it's all torn down. So that's AGI. And then ARI is an interesting animal. It's a RESTful interface. So who's familiar with REST interface? Right, okay. So very, very, very internet-specific, internet-centric kind of technology. Basically, the idea of the ARI is to give a developer control of the fundamentals within Asterisk. So we have dial plan applications such as voicemail, right? So an endpoint calls into Asterisk, executes the voicemail application, and now the user experience is I'm leaving a voicemail in the Asterisk system. ARI will give access to the low-level primitives, so not just the voicemail application, but the bridge, the voicemail object, the audio stream to and from the endpoint, and then you can write your own dial plan application in some other language, like Java or PHP or JavaScript or something like this. So ARI allows you to write your own dial plan applications, whereas AGI and AMI are really about controlling applications that are already written and ship with Asterisk, and they're written in C, right? And the whole point of ARI is that, okay, show of hands, who's a C kernel developer, right? Who spends most of their time writing C in Linux? Okay. Who is using some slightly, according to some people, slightly less powerful language like Python, PHP, JavaScript, Java? Yeah. So just by show of hands, we can see that ARI is probably going to be more interesting to that lot, right, than the other two necessarily, if you need something that's not already provided by Asterisk. Right. So there's my definition of the big 3 APIs, and I've got a few minutes until coffee. It's almost coffee o'clock. Hang on, everybody. So here's a visual representation of what's going on with this architecture scenario. I mentioned the core, right? So let's just say that this box is the Asterisk core. And let's say all these little dots over here are the different modules, right? These dots represent those all those .so files that we saw earlier, right? And the different color is a different type, right? So there's app and res for resource and file and chan and this sort of thing. So this one on the top right is app dial. And app dial is for sure the workhorse of Asterisk. The dial application is what you use to bridge two endpoints together. That diagram I showed you earlier where you have a phone, sends a channel into Asterisk and then a channel out of Asterisk. What was happening there in the middle was the dial application. Right now I have no modules loaded, but if you load the module, a little blue squiggly arrow pops out of cyberspace. That's not how it works at all. When you load the app dial SO into the Asterisk core, now Asterisk has the ability to use the dial plan application. It's a very peculiar sentence to try to construct there. So in dial plan, you can execute different applications. Let's talk about that after we look at the core functions. Again, all the core really cares about is managing the modules, parsing the configuration files, providing system timing, and channel management, right? Making sure that those channels are actually bridged and connected as they should be. And in all honesty, control of them is passed to the proper application, may it dial or bridge or queue or something you've written in ARI. Now we have config file basics. Who has never actually written a config file from scratch? Like written it from just a blank text file? Okay. So everyone here has written a config file with just a blank, no references, no notes or anything. Did you do it blindfolded? Okay. All right, very cool. So this will be a good, a bit of a review for you. There's section headers, and this is basically how we split up the file. We split it up into big chunks. You have a section header that's surrounded by square brackets, right? Whenever you see that in an Asterisk config file, that's pretty much, hey, there's a new section, and all the settings below this section until I get to another section header are going to apply to this thing, all right? And we have key value pairs. So, you know, mailboxes equals 7001 at default. I've just defined a mailbox for something. You can comment out lines, and I would certainly encourage you to do so if you don't have a habit of doing that. The semicolon is how we use, how we declare a comment in Asterisk config files. So semicolon at the front of that line, nothing else on this line will be parsed by Asterisk. So Asterisk will not read that, it will ignore it altogether. You can leave yourself little notes about what in the heck this configuration means. You could do multiple line comments this way. Open it up with semicolon dash dash and then close it with dash dash semicolon. I personally would not recommend that, but it works. And I would not recommend that because, anybody? Yeah, exactly right. What if I just, for whatever reason, I had too much coffee that day and I decided to delete this line? Right, Asterisk, more than likely Asterisk will say, I'm not going to load that file, something's wrong. Still bad, right? If it's not going to load the config file, you're still not doing well. But if it just said, I'm just going to plow through it, I'm going to load this thing anyway. Oh, you've commented out everything. Good job. Right, so that's why I would recommend not doing that. That's just my recommendation. Again, it works. So, we've made it to the review. It is very near coffee o'clock. Who can tell me the difference between the Linux command line and the Asterisk CLI?
I was mistaken between doing ls minus l asterisk command line, and I'm always control C back up.
Yeah.
I'll just like that.
Do you know about the, so he mentioned that he's always confusing the two, and he's trying to do a Linux command on the Asterisk CLI.
If you're not paying attention, just run it through.
Yeah, I was about to do the trick. So up here, this is Linux command line, of course, and then this is the Asterisk CLI. And you know that because it says Asterisk CLI chevron. And here you can do Asterisk commands, but not Linux commands. So if I try to do an ls, no such thing, right? I want to see what files are in my, come on, what's the deal here? Well, that's because you're in the Asterisk CLI. If you want to issue a Linux command, you can prepend it with a bang. And that's just a fancy way of saying, do exclamation point first. So exclamation point, and then ls, and it will execute. So really what happens is Asterisk opens up a subshell, runs that command, and feeds the output back to you, straight at your eyeballs. So that's just one of the ways that you can do that. Now, I'm a huge fan of doing this sort of thing. So now I can edit my config file, and as soon as I'm done, I'm back on the Asterisk CLI, and then I can do a reload. Saves a few steps. Right? People that work in the command line are notoriously lazy. We try to get around every shortcut we possibly can, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. All right. Come on, PowerPoint. You can do it. Hey, there we go. The modular architecture, any questions about how Asterisk really is set up? You've got a core, You have many, many modules that ship with Asterisk that provide some functionality. If you unload that module, you can't use it. You can't use whatever functionality it provides. So if you unload the app dial SO, Asterisk cannot bridge channels together with the dial application. Okay? Everybody's like, okay, get to the coffee, come on. All right, channels. Communication pathway into or out of Asterisk, right? Okay, interfaces. Any questions about interfaces before we move towards coffee? No questions at all. Everybody's perfectly satisfied with everything you know about interfaces now. Okay. Whose favorite interface is the CLI versus config files? So you prefer CLI, so who prefers config files? All right. I saw the same hand come up from the okay, I got you. And then finally, config file syntax. We saw a little bit of information about the basics of how that works. There's a few other things we'll try to get into as we go along. So next, we're going to talk about installing Asterisk after we have a break. So thanks all very much. I'll see you if you care. Oh, thanks.